want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. Today is a little bit different. I've taken another episode from my other podcast, the Podiatry Legends podcast, and I wanted to post it here into this particular podcast because the story that my guest shares is very unique, and I think it's really important for people to understand themselves and their health and how that can affect their work. See, at 30 years of age, Kristi Boles had the world at her feet. She was married with children and was running 9 successful podiatry practices in Victoria. However, her health took a sudden downturn, resulting in heart surgery and a very long layoff from running her businesses. On this podcast episode, Kristi openly talks about her sudden and unexpected health issues and also how she has transformed her own life and that of her patients by being more aware of the fundamentals of healing and good health. Now, I open up this conversation asking Kristi about why she takes Wednesdays off and the importance of actually having that sort of time to herself and how that positively affects her business. So sit back, wherever you are, listen and enjoy.
Yeah, I've found it really beneficial. And I'll get to the end of my Tuesday and knowing that day is ahead of me where I'm going to be productive, but I'm also going to sort of have time and space to think and create.
So how long have you been taking the Wednesdays off and not playing golf?
So it's probably now, a couple of months, which has been good.
Okay, what was there something you read or something you did that all of a sudden, or did somebody say to you, you need to take a day off to sort of recharge the mental battery or just to get things done? Or what was the process that made you decide that, yes, I'm going to actually do it?
So I have a chronic health condition called Marfan syndrome, which I was diagnosed with in 2011 after a big heart surgery. So I've sort of been working on my health and well-being for the last sort of 8 years, just getting that balance right, which I know lots of people would understand.
Yeah.
Trying to sort of run businesses, be a practitioner, be creative and keep developing the programs that I've been working on, but also look after my body so I've got enough energy to do that and do it really well. So I've done a lot of personal development work and I do a lot of training in health and well-being to make sure I can firstly look after my body and my health. And then I can also put programs out there for other people to look after their health and have some practitioners be able to support some of their patients in that area too, which is what I'm really, really excited to do.
Did you always know you had a heart problem, or was this something that just came about out of the blue?
Yeah, it actually came about. So Marfan syndrome is a genetic condition. So of course I had a chromosome issue from conception. It is usually hereditary though, but not in my case. So I was running 9 podiatry practices and, working full-time hours in clinic as well. And I just got to that, burnout time where my body was under so much strain and my aorta dissected. So that was the first thing that happened. I sort of went 6-7 months where my aorta was dissected. The heart was pumping extremely hard and the body wasn't feeling great, but I just didn't know what was going on.
And up until then, you didn't know that you didn't know there was a problem that existed.
No, it was. I knew I was feeling pretty terrible, but we didn't know. I kept going back and forth to the doctor, and we didn't figure it out because I was, seemingly healthy in all other areas. So went in for surgery, got the replaced aorta, then got the diagnosis of Marfan syndrome, which was Marfan syndrome means that your tissues throughout your body are slightly weaker or softer because fibrillin through all the structures in your body is defective. And yes, that's why my aorta dissected. And once that got replaced, I sort of went through the standard recovery after a major open heart surgery.
Yeah.
But then I actually had to rehabilitate my whole body because my system was just, it wasn't functioning very well. So that's where the journey kind of began, that, in health and well-being and how to look after a body with a chronic health condition and multiple other issues that go along with it. And then led me back to getting, entwining that into practice.
So how old were you when that took place?
I was 30.
So you were 30 years of age, you had 9 practices, working like a maniac.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, bang, like that, you have open heart surgery. Which means you're going to be laid up for about 3 months.
Yeah. Went back to work after, a number of months, but I was in survival mode.
Yeah.
So I was treating and, trying to run a business at that time. And
how did the 9 practices cope with you being laid up for so long?
Well, I was quite fortunate because my husband had come he's got a lot of business background. So he'd come into businesses a year or so before I was unwell. And he took over running the practices for a good sort of 12 to 18 months.
Oh, that's good.
Time. And then as I started to get well again, then I started to take back more of the reins again. So.
Okay, and then did you slowly, because you said you've got 2 practices now, did you slowly sell off the other practices knowing that you just wanted to bring it down to 2 and then start doing something else, like in the wellness area? Was that the initial plan and it's grown from there? Yeah,
so being, having multiple practices, and then I've got a young family at that time, you just get total perspective on what's really, really important, and trying to get that balance again of, being a wife, being a mother, being a business owner, being a practitioner. Something had to give. So we got really clear on that we still wanted to run clinics, and we transformed them over that time, the 2 major ones, into allied health practices, so multiple modalities.
Okay.
And looking after, people's more whole body health. And we just realised that we couldn't spread ourselves so thin, and we needed to, consolidate.
So, what was the original? Because when I was reading through your bio, and you mentioned about you did sports podiatry, you'd done biomechanics and mobilization, a lot of the things that other people do, and then you were doing integrative nutrition. Did that all started after the heart condition was diagnosed, or were you already doing that beforehand?
No, that's been like after the recovery. I mean, I've always been so passionate about health and well-being for my own body. But then once I went through, like, I knew going through this massive event and all the hardships I've had to overcome, there had to be a reason. Like, there had to be some reason why I'd gone through all of this and survived it all and come out on the other side. And I realized that, when I first started podiatry, my strength was always in communication and connection with my patients. We'd be asked that common question that our patients ask, like, why would you want to be dealing with feet? And everyone has their different response, like one as well. But I was always like, well, feet are connected to a person, and every person is totally different. And I get to communicate with that person and hear all your stories and what you've been through in your life. And I get to learn all these amazing things that helps me in my life. And they'd all be like, oh, yeah. So, I mean, I've always loved that communication and connection. And I was trying throughout my early career to be the best podiatrist and know everything and know every tool, and how can I do it better in that clinic? How can I diagnose better? How can I know more treatment techniques? And then I realized that what I do and why I've been successful as a practitioner is around that communication and really hearing what's going on for that patient and their body, and then developing that treatment program through knowing that person and what they actually need and what's doable for them at that time in their life. So when I started to learn so much more about health and well-being and having my journey through I went to 5 specialists and I had my GP, and I was so unwell, and they said, "You're good to go. The surgery went well. Everything should be fine. Get back into your life." And I was still really sick, and not one of them spoke about, getting some other support with the basics of health, such as nutrition. And
so
hygiene.
just to go back a step, even though like leading up to that, when your heart wasn't feeling very well, but prior to actually feeling bad, were you already like eating quite well? You always looked after your diet, what you ate, or were you like a lot of people who just work too hard and quickly grab something for breakfast, work all day, don't have lunch, have a late meal, fast food? Were you doing that type of thing, or you were already fairly health conscious beforehand?
So very health conscious in diet, like with diet and nutrition. That was always the passion, but not really, educated in all the other facets of looking after a body.
Okay.
So, definitely stress levels were too high, didn't have that kind of perspective on, how much rest to have, would keep going those long days, as I'm sure you understand. And, not often drinking enough water was a big one, particularly on busy clinic days where you've got a lot of clients. And because I'd always be giving, all I had in every treatment, stopping to take a drink of water when you've got a patient ready to come in, I wouldn't do that. So, all those things definitely weren't in perspective. So that's where I've really sort of upskilled and sort of got a better idea on, how I can now support other patients and help other practitioners to support their patients in all those fundamentals of health.
Okay, so when the doctor said, "Okay, your heart's good now, get out there and just go and live your life," at no stage did they really talk to you about your diet, your nutrition, what you should be doing to make yourself better? They sort of just went, "Oh, well, we'll leave it up to you. That's not our job."
Yep, the aorta's functioning well. The yaw valve, which I was lucky, my valve still was functioning really well after the surgery. You're good to go. And I felt totally lost. I had a migraine, which I had a version of migraines that started every day. I'd have a new migraine start.
Yeah.
I was fatigued. I had to nap most afternoons because I didn't have the energy to go the whole day. And I was like, well, what's going on here? They're saying I'm okay. So that's where, I was so fortunate. I already had allied health clinics. So I had lots of practitioners around me. I had the resources and friends in, other natural medicines as well to go and see and talk to. So I went on the journey of going and getting help because I knew I wasn't right. My body wasn't functioning as it should. And so I started that journey of kind of getting help, getting support, educating, self-educating. But there's so many people out there with chronic health conditions that, get told they're okay or this is where they're going to stay, and they don't have those resources. So that's why, what I've been creating to bring into our GP clinics and into allied health clinics is all around giving patients that support in those fundamentals of healing to start that journey of them and how they can actually make better decisions for themselves. So that's where it all came from.
So that's what I was interested in too, was because you said like on your Allied Wellness website, you have a program at the moment called Fundamentals of Healing. So
Yeah.
is that targeted towards your patients? You're using this information for your patients, or you're using it for practitioners, podiatrists, other people in the health industry, for them, or for them to use with their patients? What's the background behind that?
Yeah. So it's actually it's a tool for practitioners to use in their practices for their patients. So we've been using it in our practices for some time now. I've been using this for years, but I just hadn't formalized it into a tool of how other practitioners could use it and how I could train my team to do it. It's an evidence-based program that practices can buy to use safely in practice, which is quite easy to use. And it doesn't, cause our practitioners to practice outside of their scope of practice. So I had to be really careful with that.
Yeah, well, that was something that came up recently, a Facebook page that I'm part of a group, and somebody was saying, at what point do we give people advice on health and nutrition? And are we going outside of our scope of practice?
Definitely.
And there was a lot of discussion around that where people were saying, I don't give any advice. And I'm thinking, well, geez, I think we're obligated to give some advice.
Yes, our restrictions, podiatry, it's definitely not in our scope of practice to give nutrition advice.
Yeah.
So the key thing is we're wanting to give education to those patients, but we can't give them dietary advice directly. So the tool's sort of all set up, but I've done all the research and gone through peer reviews and looked at, what's the latest evidence to that's out there by our professionals who are recommending, what people need to be eating to have their body in, optimum health. And what ultimately comes out of it is that every person is individual. And there's some basic principles, but finding the right diet for an individual person is what our dietitians and nutritionists do. So this tool really is about providing that very simple education, so patients know where they're at now with their diet and nutrition, or their hydration, or their sleep. Bringing that awareness. And then the practitioner is able to find out from that person what's worked better for their body in the past. So the patient's actually coming up with their own steps of how they can improve in those areas.
Yeah.
And then if we recognise there's a serious problem, which that's our role as that, sometimes we become that primary practitioner, to be able to then guide them and refer them effectively onto the right professional when they need it. And we know that patients going and seeing another practitioner isn't always, patients don't always follow that recommendation. They're worried about seeing someone else. How much will it cost?
Well, it's sometimes it's hard just to get them to go to the shop and buy a pair of shoes.
Definitely.
So I can understand how getting them to then go and talk to another health practitioner is difficult.
It's quite difficult. But what I've found is that once they know, they've reflected on what they're actually doing in that area, and they've then got some basic knowledge on, what they could be doing and how it could affect their health and well-being, they're then more likely to go and follow that referral and go and get some support in it. But that can be, after a couple of consultations where they've reflected on their fundamentals of healing. So, yeah.
Okay, so if I was a podiatrist in clinic, I would go to your website, alliedwellness.com.au?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I go to that website, and then on that website there, you've got the fundamentals of healing, and that's going to be a program that's coming out in early April.
Yes. So we've launched the landing page, homepage. So there's a little bit of information, so you can go to the site now and have a bit of a read. But the main site will be launched in about 4 weeks. and the Fundamentals of Healing program will be available online. So it's a tool that's made up of a screening tool and then a patient education booklet. Then there's a patient diary that the practitioner can, give out appropriately depending on what area that person needs to improve on.
Yeah.
There's patient referral tool for the practitioners. And then there's a resource library for practitioners to be able to look at the latest research on these lifestyle factors and how they actually are affecting, chronic disease, which is, it's the area that I'm most interested in affecting to really help our global health. That's what we want to be working on.
Okay, well, you said it's going to be available in 4 weeks' time, so hopefully when I look at my schedule and I sort of publish this particular podcast episode, ideally, if I plan everything right, if you're listening to this now, the website is ready to go. So go to the website straight away, and you do have a promo code for anyone that's on the show as well. Can I read that out?
Yeah, that'd be great.
It is, use the promo code PODLEGENDS, so PODLEGENDS. And use that promo code, and there will be a discount for the Fundamentals of Healing. So I think it's worth checking out. And I was talking to someone just recently, and I was saying I'm surprised that podiatrists and nutritionists and dietitians don't work closer together.
Yeah, I've been the same. Like how often I've referred patients in the past over to a dietitian, and the majority just weren't going to get that information. So yeah, that's why I think, my ultimate goal is to have, all GPs and allied health professionals educating their patients, in these 5 key areas of health at that basic sort of level, so that we're all singing the same tune. And the patients know that their most trusted practitioner that they see regularly and they have a strong relationship cares about this stuff about them and wants to help, their whole body to be healthier rather than just attending to that one illness they've come in for or that one pain they've come in for. So, yeah.
So do you make that part of your overall assessment with your patients when a patient comes to you, regardless of their body shape, size or ailment? There might be a knee problem, could be heel, could be lower back pain. Do you look at that part of their life as just part of your overall assessment, and it's part of like the whole allied wellness sort of stance that you're taking?
Yeah, so every person that comes in, no matter what condition they have, they're coming to us, for the, healthcare, even our general care patients. How many times they'll share what's going on in other areas of their life during their general care consult. And if you're able to actually use a tool and they know regularly you're going to just be checking in, how are you going with your hydration? How's your diet been? How are you sleeping at the moment? And just asking those questions. They know you're going to be asking those questions, so they're more likely to self-regulate and make some positive changes in those areas. And my patients coming back in, and I haven't told them how much water to drink, and I haven't told them what to eat. And they come in and I'll just be saying, how's your heel pain going? What number is it out of 10 in pain now? And they will then say, without me even asking, I've actually increased my water. I'm now drinking 8 glasses a day, and I've been eating more vegetables. Now, I didn't tell them to eat more vegetables or drink more water, but they've had the education and they've actually decided to improve themselves. So I've got a really empowered patient sitting there who's making strong decisions to improve their health. And they're so excited to share it with me. And imagine how I'm inside doing fist pumps going, oh my God, that person has just totally made that decision. And that will translate in their, you know, in their decisions in all aspects of their life, because they actually did it themselves, and they've got the confidence now that they can, you know, make decisions towards better health, a better life, you know, all of that. So that's the part that just excites me tremendously.
Well, the part that's interesting, though, is it's like anything. Success leads to more success. So just by drinking more water, and they're aware probably every time they have a glass of water, oh, I'm doing the right thing here. So then when it comes to lunchtime, they're going, oh, well, I have the hamburger that I normally have, but then again, there is that nice beetroot salad. I think I'll go for that instead.
Yeah.
And then when they're having dinner at night, instead of having that second helping of the cottage pie, they just have the one. And they drink more water with it. So these little changes, just by getting them thinking about it and being more aware, is going to have a positive effect.
Yes. And I mean, the latest research showing, you know, just the basic lifestyle factors of, you know, eating fruits and vegetables and whole grains, drinking more water, not smoking, and moving a little bit each day, it can reduce our four main chronic illnesses by up to 80%. Like, it's huge. And I think, you know, if we can really get patients, you know, doing some simple things, you know, they're coming in and their health's improving over the time we're seeing them, rather than regressing, and we're just managing, you know, the ulcer on the toe, or, you know, the chronic pain they've got.
No, it makes perfect sense, because like you said, we're not trying to be dietitians and nutritionists. We're not trying to take control of that whole area. We're just taking some interest in their overall health. And because they know somebody cares, it makes them care.
Yes.
So then together you start working on things. You both are looking at this. And you probably find too, the more you've helped patients, the more you're probably making sure you're looking after yourself as well. It's a constant reminder.
Yes. Yeah. We often get that mirror effect, don't we? Like, someone will tell us about something or express something, and we're going, yeah, I could do more in that area too. So we become that role model as well.
And I think it's just getting started. I think the hardest part with anything, even with your patients, it's just getting started. So even a podiatrist listening to this now, they might go, oh, I don't know if I need the fundamentals of healing. But it's just taking that first step and at least going to your website, alliedwellness.com.au, checking it out and having a read and going, okay, is this something I can implement into my practice and make it part of the care that I provide for my patients?
Yes, or a lot of us don't know where to start. Like, a lot of GPs I've spoken to in the past, they don't start these conversations because they're concerned it's going to take a lot of consult time.
Yeah.
So we've made it really, really easy, and taking as minimal consult time as possible, while delivering so much value to their patient, and satisfaction to the practitioners as well. But getting them that result while giving them education that they can read at home. You know, we've got a video series that's going to be in the program as well that they, you know, the patients can watch at home. So it takes a lot of the time out of the consult. So it's really easy to implement, and all done for you, all referenced and evidence-based. So it's the easiest way to start it.
No, I think it's great. And, that's what I'm enjoying about starting this podcast is we never would have had this conversation if it wasn't for this podcast. No,
I'm so rapt you'd started.
Which it's become it sounds funny, far more interesting than I thought it was going to. Not that I didn't think podiatry was interesting, but I've connected with so many podiatrists, even after this. I think I've recorded about 20 episodes so far.
Yes.
And all the conversations have been so different. Yeah, there's been some similarities between them, but it's just amazing. Every guest I have on amazes me just that little bit more about how good the podiatry profession is.
Oh, we've got so many great creative people. And I mean, to be a really good podiatrist, you have to love people and, also be so passionate about healthcare. So I think your podcast just bringing the profession together and supporting each other and, enhancing each other's knowledge so we can do, better for our community and globally as well. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, and that's been the fun part, because so far I've had guests from United States, United Kingdom, and United Australia. If you're talking to Clive Palmer, but I know that I've got someone lined up from South Africa, and the goal is to talk to a lot of podiatrists all around the world in different parts, which is just going to make it more interesting, and ideally too. And I said that before I pressed record, that if you wanted to be on more podcasts, let me know, and I can hook you up with people. Yeah, I can connect you. Hook you up sounds really bad. I can connect you with other people.
I'd love to speak to more people.
Yeah, well, other people I know that are health practitioners in different areas who have got podcasts. I know a few physios, chiropractors, and a couple of doctors around the world. But
that's amazing.
Like I said, one of my goals each week is to connect 3 people who do not know each other with each other if I think they have a common interest, whether it's healthcare, podcasting, finance, or just business in general. So, I can think of a few people straight away that I will be connecting you with over the next couple of days. So
that would be amazing.
I think what you're doing is great.
This program is really for, general practitioners and all allied health, not just podiatrists. So, I'd love to speak to as many people as I can and share it.
Yeah, and the thing that'll be good is once you get on a few more shows too, and people hear your message, then it's going to the fundamentals of healing is going to get even higher profile. Down the track, are you planning on writing a book that's going to go with this? Do you have another stage or step where you're taking it?
Yes, there's a book sort of underway. I'm wanting to get it into as many clinics as possible initially, globally. So that would be the first step. And then I'll be keeping on adding to the resources and evolving the program as we go along to just keep strengthening it. I've also got a plan to be on an app as well, so it's even more user friendly for our tech savvy clinics and patients. So there's lots in the pipeline.
No, I think that's great. So before we wrap up, have you got any parting advice to a podiatrist listening to this today that you're sort of like, here's one tip for you that you can take to the bank every day of the week?
Yeah, so probably my best tip would be truly listening to your patient. The diagnosis is often in what the patient says. So they give you every bit of information. We have to ask the right questions throughout our history taking. But listening to your patient, they know their body better than we could ever know it.
Yes.
So really absorbing that information and collating all the information to be able to set up a really good treatment plan for that individual person.
No, I think that's good advice. I have a friend in Philadelphia, and he is an expert in communication, persuasion, and influence. And he says it's really funny when you ask someone a question, like especially a practitioner of anywhere in the medical field asking a patient something, and he said usually the first answer is a lie. He goes, which is why you need to not just hear what they're saying, but really listen to what they're saying. Yeah. That you can just take that first thing they say, but if you ask them the question a few times and dig a little bit deeper, then they'll actually really start telling you the truth. And that's when you really need to start listening, and that's when you can help them the most.
Yeah, I totally agree. The consult, that trust and rapport that you're building from that first meeting and the second consultation, often as people start to trust you, a lot comes out in their health that we can really support and have a great impact on their life by being there to listen to that.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Kristi Boles today, and I think you'd understand why I needed to play this particular podcast episode from the Podiatry Legends podcast on It's No Secret with Dr. T, because I think the message is so important about looking after our health. Because without our health, what is the point in making money? And if you want to spend more time with your family and life and friends and everything else, your health needs to be there. Otherwise, life will be miserable. So if you've been enjoying this podcast, please tell your friends. And if you happen to be on iTunes, whatever podcast platform you listen to, give us a review. Tell people what you think. Okay, that's it from me. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. And by the way, look after your health.